First, being curious. Like I was saying, I think curiosity is a key for a product manager to really be a good product manager. I think that digging in and understanding and being able to ask the questions, recognize that there's no silly questions that they can ask. Sometimes it feels like it, and you might feel like you should know it, and you don't. But ultimately, there are no silly questions, because those are the things that digging in and understanding kind of the details. When I came into Frankly, one of the things that happened is in the solutions engineering role, it was almost really product. I came in, had to work with a client who we had said, yeah, we can do that, no problem. And I think everyone was a little too busy to really dig in. They had a couple key requirements that, yes, we had done before. Frankly, at 100% implemented this stuff, but nobody dug into the details. So when I got in, my job was to dig into those details and figure out, what are those things that they really need? What we discovered was they needed a paywall. And yes, we'd implemented paywalls before, but they didn't just need a paywall for a single type of authentication. They needed to be able to authenticate differently from their key cable company. They needed to be able to authenticate to their partners, which are different cable companies, which had a different mechanism. They had a whitelist that we needed to handle for like the local library and the local school. And then on top of that, they had a paid model that if you were outside in this case, the New York area, that you could actually pay. And if you were in the tri-state area, but not part of any of those cable companies, you couldn't access. That's a lot more complicated than a single kind of plan of registration. So what was supposed to be something pretty easy, like, oh yeah, just some configurations, ended up being about 3 months worth of work to kind of get all of those pieces lined up. So it's easy to ask the basic question. It's hard to get into the details. And that's part of the piece that makes a good product manager, is getting into the weeds of those details. Sometimes it's the edge cases, sometimes it's the other pieces that just make up the bigger picture. Because at the surface, some things may sound really easy, and even easy things might sound really easy. And those things that say, oh, we want to be able to implement AMP. Okay, we want to redirect off of the article page. Great. And you would think that everybody would understand what that meant. But then at the end of the day, that code is implemented on every single template, and therefore every single page when you're coming from Google search goes to an AMP page, which isn't what you expect. And so everything all of a sudden breaks. So that key line of, hey, this should only be on stories, which was assumed because it's Google AMP, actually made the process of putting that implementation in, which was supposed to be 5 days, into 10 days. So we have to go back and look at it again. So recognizing those questions. And then there's the other layer of looking at all the data. What data do you have to help make your decisions? And you look at your analytics tools, whether it's Google Analytics or Omniture or whatever the tools that you have. Look for viewability, looking at Moat, looking at any of the tools at your disposal for data, and helping make decisions on priority and what you're doing based on data. Then recognizing there's gray. There's a whole mess of gray, and data looks great and can be very black and white, but there's a whole set of emotion and a whole set of additional things that you need to consider. What does that client need, especially if you're working at an enterprise B2B companies? It's really easy for B2C to go, oh, these are the top things that you need to do, and this is where we're going to make our money from an advertiser standpoint. But when you throw clients into the mix and they're paying you, you ultimately need to consider what they need and what they think is the most important. Even though you may not think it's the highest thing in the list, you need to think about how that prioritizes in. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you got to force rank everything. I think there's always going to be a capacity issue, no matter where you are, whether you're a big company, small company, you're going to want to do everything yesterday. And I think one of the things that's taken me a while to learn, but I learned over a number of jobs, over a number of projects, is that concept of like really setting a priority and recognizing and going through that priority list with the stakeholders and saying, how do we list that out? Because at the end of the day, you can't tackle it all at once. And sometimes there are small things that will make a big difference at the top of the list that might seem small, or something that has a low impact but is a must-have or a should-have, and getting those things done. and recognizing at the end of the day, it's a lot of science, but a lot more of the art of balancing all these pieces out. One of the things with a good product manager is that they go through all the motions, but they probably forget to ask some of those little questions and go that extra mile. They can turn out great product, but forget to put release notes out. They can go through and talk to all of their team, but believe that they have the right decision, and they ultimately are the right person. Like, they have the exact idea and they have that vision and they think it's going to need to get implemented that way, but they forget to talk to some of the stakeholders, or they may not take in what the user experience team wants or what they think is the right thing. And it's really about balancing those pieces and recognizing those balances, versus being very stubborn and saying, this is the way it's going to be because I'm the product manager and I think it needs to be this way. You can be really good like that, but recognizing that, again, those ideas can come from everywhere, as well as that feedback on how you do these things, and how it all kind of comes together, and then communicating that out and making sure everybody knows what that looks like and what you've actually delivered, is some of the things that make you a great product manager versus just a good product manager.